Welcome to our weekly 3-minute therapy podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, clinical psychologist and author. And I have a website, 3minutetherapy.com. And I'm here with my co-host who has his socks on now, Mick Berry. And we're both experts in REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy. And that's a revolutionary approach to therapy devised by Albert Ellis. Actually, it was revolutionary when he devised it, which was in the 1950s. But now there are a lot of related approaches to therapy, which REBT spawned, called cognitive behavior therapy, CBT. And the idea of REBT and cognitive behavior therapy is that our emotions and behaviors don't come from situations, as most people suppose, but rather our emotions and behaviors come from our thinking about situations. And there's a particular type of thinking that causes emotional disturbance, and that's thinking in terms of demands, musts and shoulds. And the three main demands that people have when they're disturbed, or at least they have one of those three or more, is I must do well and get approval, and if I don't, I'm no good. Others must treat me fairly, kindly, and reasonably, or else if they don't, they're no good, and my life must go uh, easily and without difficulty. And if it's not easy, if there is difficulty, then my life is horrible. So, what we do as REBT experts is help people identify their musts and shoulds that are causing their problems and help them change it. And the way to change it is by questioning, challenging, and contradicting your demands and looking at life, yourself, others, and situations in your life with preferences, a new way of looking at things, a new philosophy. And that is in the form of I prefer to do well and get approval. And if I don't, if I don't, that's too bad. That's unfortunate. What can I do to improve? I prefer you treat me well, but if you don't, that's too bad. It just proves you're an imperfect human who acts imperfectly. And if my life doesn't go well as I prefer it go, then the question is, what could I do to try to improve my life? Mick, did you want to add to that?
No, I think that about covers it.
Okay, and today we're going to be discussing rational emotive behavior therapy and egotism. And egotism is generally the practice of thinking and talking about oneself excessively uh, because of an undeserved sense of self-importance. So that comes from um, those three musts. I must do well, and that leads me to think about my life excessively and how people think of me, and trying to prove myself rather than trying to do well. Mick, did you want to say something about egotism?
Well, that's so you defined it as just obsessively thinking or concerned with oneself.
Yes, oneself.
Don't you think an aspect of egotism is thinking that you are superior to other people?
Yes, I think that's a part of it.
You mentioned that. Did I miss that?
No, no, you didn't miss that. That's a good addition.
I
That's
think
thinking
that
I'm superior to other people and I'm significantly more important than other people. Whereas it's good to put myself first because I'm stuck with myself 24 hours a day, but other people who are important to me a close second.
Uh, I think that that is really the primary problem that people get themselves into, the primary emotional problem of regarding egotism by considering themselves to be a superior human being to others And this is quite an obnoxious way to think. For one thing, it's kind of hard to hide eventually. People are going to start, I think, to sense that, yeah, this is the way you think because your behavior is going to reflect that. And then for another thing, when you start thinking you're superior to other people, that there's such a thing as a great human being, it's really only a matter of time until you start thinking you're inferior to other people because you made a mistake or you didn't perform very well. And now there's some people that never own up to that or never even have that thought. But what invariably ends up happening is you deny your mistakes. If you do something that isn't good, I see this all the time. People rate themselves as great human beings, and therefore, if they did something that wasn't very good, they would be an inferior human being. And so they cling to believing that everything that they do is fantastic and will never admit to their mistakes, and consequently their life and other people's lives involved with them become quite difficult and often much worse than that, exceedingly frustrating, and problems can surmount.
Yes, and I agree. And thinking of yourself as a superior human being, a great person, borders on narcissism. And the solution is not rating your total self based on your traits, but rather evaluating your traits and realizing you're an imperfect human who acts imperfectly. At times you do well, at times people like you, at times you screw up, and at times people don't like you. And all of that is encompassed under unconditional self-acceptance, accepting yourself as an imperfect human who acts imperfectly. Mick?
Yeah, and along those lines, I think we've talked about this in the past. Can't imagine I didn't mention it. That people would think, well, if you have unconditional self-acceptance, then you can just go around doing anything you want to and you can always accept yourself. Well, unconditional self-acceptance is a third of the equation, the other two being unconditional life acceptance and unconditional other acceptance. If you have unconditional self-acceptance and unconditional other acceptance, you won't go around wreaking havoc on other people. You'll consider that, oh, gee, they have a life too, and it's good for me to acknowledge that and to consider what are the things that would be good for them. It's not a whole lot of connecting the dots to have to realize that it's not good for me to spit in someone's face. They're probably not going to like that.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And so unconditional self-acceptance, as you're saying, applies to other people, unconditional other acceptance. So not only do you not disturb yourself about making mistakes and acting poorly, you don't disturb yourself, get angry, resentful, and hostile when other people make mistakes and act poorly, but rather you recognize that's the nature of being human. Yemek?
Well, I wanted to say also, Albert Ellis wrote a paper on this entitled 22 Ways to Stop Putting Yourself Down. I don't know if you remember that or not. It's from many years ago. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
But he had all these 22 reasons not to rate yourself. However, I've come up with just one, and it works for me beautifully. It's called the future. No matter what you accomplish, you're always capable of making a mistake in the future, and remember that. And if you ever think you're above making a mistake, you will be humbled by the future because it's only a matter of time until you do make a mistake.
Yes, right. And derivatives of I must do well and get approval is I can't stand it if I make mistakes. And it's awful, terrible, and horrible when I make mistakes or others treat me poorly, which are also fictions, just as all must are fictions. It's uh, it's unfortunate if you make mistakes, if others make mistakes, if there's hassles in life, but you definitely can stand what you don't like. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in terms of us avoiding making mistakes, remembering that we can make mistakes and we can still accept ourselves when we make mistakes makes it much easier to avoid mistakes because you're going to be calmer about the different behaviors and different activities that you do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the issue is to uh, try to do better in order to improve your life rather than be a better person.
Yeah.
That's a fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, and a principal idea with REBT is that you can rate your behavior and not rate yourself as a total person. However, let's remember there is a huge tendency for human beings to rate themselves rather than their behavior. So it does take practice, practice, practice to be able to rate your behavior and not rate yourself, and continual practice. This doesn't mean that you'll never get better at doing it. You'll get a lot better at doing it, but it always takes practice to get better and better. And you're going to slip up in trying to not make mistakes or trying not to rate yourself when you make mistakes. You can pretty much be assured you're going to make a mistake in that process. So that will take continued practice and accepting yourself when you don't accept yourself. I myself have had to do a lot of exercises, ABC exercises on, okay, I'm having trouble accepting myself. I can still accept myself if I have trouble accepting myself. I want to get better at accepting myself, but right now I'm not as good as I'd like to be. And I screw up in accepting myself. Well, okay, it's not going to do me any good to say, I'm never going to get this. I have a horrible habit of accepting myself. Therefore, I'm unacceptable because I can't accept myself. That's not useful. What's useful is to say, I want to be able to accept myself much more. I'm not accepting myself nearly as much as I'd like to. I am still acceptable, even if I find it difficult to accept myself. I can accept myself as a fallible human being that has trouble accepting himself. I can accept that.
Yes, and the ABC exercises that you referenced in more detail, A stands for activating event. For example, I made a mistake. B stands for irrational belief about that. I should not have made a mistake. I must not. It's awful, terrible, and horrible. And that leads to C, undesirable emotional consequences, depression, anxiety, guilt. And the way to remedy that is with D, E, and F. D is disputing your irrational belief. What's the evidence? I must not make a mistake. And that leads to E, effective new thinking. There's no evidence I absolutely must not make a mistake, but if I do, I do. It just proves I'm an imperfect human who acts imperfectly. And that will lead to F, a new feeling, which is concern, disappointment, displeasure about making mistakes, but not anxiety or depression. Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, and I wanted to say, since we're talking about the ego, egotism is embracing the ego, and we're trying to not rate ourselves. But when people become involved in romantic relationships, this is all about rating the other person and thinking that they're wonderful and I want to be with them. And REBT would not discourage somebody from thinking that way. Simply keep it in a rational perspective. Yeah, for me, they're somebody that is best for me, I see is best for me to be with rather than other people, but this person is still not a great human being. However, REBT says we're fallible people. And I think REBT, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but REBT would also say if you have somebody adoring you and thinking you're absolutely fabulous, don't even try to discourage them, dispel them from that notion. Just enjoy it, but just remember that you yourself can accept yourself as somebody who's fallible. And if you're in the throes of passion, you can let somebody else think that you're absolutely perfect and wonderful. Why not just enjoy it for the time being? It'll probably be only a matter of time until they find a flaw with you and think, oh, gee, you're not perfect. Oh, well.
Yeah, I think you can do both. I think you can enjoy a romantic relationship while gently reminding your partner that you're an imperfect human, you're not God's gift to the human race. So when they find a flaw, it's not the end of the world. Mick?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I'm not sure you need to break the ice of or break the moment if somebody's staring into your eyes adoringly and saying you're absolutely fantastic. I think it would be a stupid response to say, "Remember, I'm a fallible human being." I think the response is just to thank them and enjoy it.
Well, as I said, you could do both, and the reason to do that is, as you pointed out, if they think you're God's gift to the human race because they haven't seen any of your flaws, and then when they do see your flaws, then that's the other side of the coin. You're that you're no good and you're a horrible person. So it can't hurt to remind them and help them think a little more rationally at the same time, but don't charge them for the therapy.
Well, I'm not sure we agree here because I'm not sure that it's the most passionate or loving thing to say in every instance. I think sometimes it's good to just let things go and not worry about being rational 100% of the time, and sometimes just enjoy being irrational if there's no harm coming from it.
Okay, then I'll keep on thinking you're an absolutely wonderful co-host, and I won't remind myself you're an imperfect human.
Well, I'll do that. I'm imperfect and I know I've done things that are wrong. So there I'm contradicting myself. All right.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thanks, Mick Berry, for being a fun co-host. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, clinical psychologist. I have a website, 3minutetherapy.com. And thank you, Chris Rossini, our tech engineer. Comment below if you have thoughts about our discussion or questions, or give us a thumbs up if you like this. And volunteer if you'd like to be a volunteer. Next week, we're going to have a guest. So it's always nice to have another person to discuss REBT with. And subscribe to the 3 Minute Therapy podcast to do what, Mick?
To stay on the rational side of life and egotism, if there is one.